Hello, everyone. I'm Samir Prince, and this is Path of the Pros, a series of video sessions where we sit down with some of the most talented and successful execs in sports entertainment, learning about how they've got to where they are and what it takes to become a pro in their field. Very excited today to be sat with Fred Mangione, one of New York's finest and best at doing what he does. Fred, thanks for joining us.
No, not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff. So, kicking off with a question I always like to kick these things off with, Fred. How did you first get into sports? Take us back to the start.
Well, I've been in the industry now for over 25, probably in 28 years right now. Back in my time when you wanted to break in, it was all about tickets. And not a lot has changed. So the revenue generation is the most important thing for any club, any agency, any entity. But I started out by selling tickets in minor league sports, minor league hockey, arena football, and just kind of worked my way up. Didn't do an internship, didn't go to grad school. It was kind of pounded the pavement, back then. And I don't want to age myself too much. There wasn't LinkedIn. There was barely email. So there was a lot of snail mail and rejection letters and trying to be cute by sending the Yankees, sending George Steinbrenner a baseball with my resume on it. And I thought I was being, unique, but, probably 3 days later, I had a rejection letter, but it was just getting creative and really just the typical starting at the bottom. I was going to I wanted to get into to be a stockbroker or a pharmaceutical rep, after I was having trouble breaking in. And those were the two jobs where you can make $100,000 if you were pretty good at it. So, but a friend called me and said the Meadowlands was looking for someone to sell minor league roller hockey tickets at $5 an hour and 10% commission. I was like, you know what? Let's give it a whirl. And like I said, just about 28 years later and multiple entities in different positions, here I am. So
Nice. Sounds like an interesting time anyway. Yeah, either Wall Street stocks trading or sports and getting into sales, which a lot of the execs that I'll speak to, Fred, as I'm sure start off, in that kind of ticket sales or some sort of sales environment in sports. How did you go from that to, working with FIFA, obviously, one of the kind of world leaders, I guess, in sports, working on the World Cup in 1999, Giant Stadium, how did that come about? And I guess, how was that experience for you?
yeah, look, that was probably, I joke around all the times. I've done some great things in my career and worked for some great brands. Opening a Barclays Center, having the ability to work at the New York Jets, rebranding like their uniforms, just doing some really great things. But I always look back and say my time at FIFA probably is where I grew the most. My time kind of doing minor league stuff, I just felt like I literally did my time in the minors for 6 years, working on minor league sports, really got in the trenches, learned a lot about the business, but I had an opportunity to run the sales and marketing venue at Giant Stadium, your point, for Women's World Cup. It was a 2.5-year assignment. And, women's sport was not what it is today. So when you look at the great athletes of Mia Hamm and Julie Foudy and Brandy Chastain, they put the sport on the map with that tournament. And for me, my next thing was going from the minor leagues to a big event. And there's nothing bigger than the World Cup. And there's nothing bigger than FIFA. And I remember getting the job and being told, because the first games were here in New York at Giant Stadium, the event, it was never in the States before. And the woman who hired me said, if Giant Stadium isn't a success, this tournament could have some issues. And thankfully, with a good staff, unique marketing, and a different way to build up the event, the games were off the charts, and they were one of the most highest attended events ever at Giant Stadium. And one thing I've been very, very proud of, and from there the tournament took off. But it was an amazing product. They were amazing athletes. They were amazing females. And as I always say, if you got a good product, the beer's always a little colder and the popcorn's always a little bit hotter. So it makes your life a little bit easier when you work for a good product. And I was lucky enough, back to run that event for sure.
Yeah, certainly an incredible time to be involved in soccer specifically out here in the US, and I guess the evolution since then, which I spoke about with Dan Gayman a few weeks back on how much that's evolved and everything like that. So it sounds like you've obviously played a part in that, and then from there joining the Brooklyn Nets, or I guess the Nets I should say, back then in '99, obviously playing a crucial part of the growth of that team and that business. Talk to us about that journey, because that's, obviously a huge, huge part of your career, right?
Yeah,
The tenure that you spent there.
yeah, that's my mainstay of 18 years. Ironically, the gentleman who recruited me and hired me at the Nets, he tried to get me once before, and I rejected the position. And then when this was done, I actually got offered a job at the Boston Red Sox, and I was going to go to Boston. And I just had a lot going. My mom developed breast cancer. Unfortunately, she passed away at a young age, and I kind of said I probably got to stay local. So I ironically went back. I took the Nets job, and I told the gentleman who hired me, "You probably got me a year and a half to 2 years." He's like, "Can you rebuild my sales staff? I think we got to do it differently. They're a second team after the Knicks and all that kind of stuff." And fast forward 18 years later, I was sitting in Brooklyn. I was, the COO of the arena and the team. I helped bring the New York Islanders over. I really learned the programming business. From when we were in New Jersey, we just rented the building, and, we got to Brooklyn, we owned it. So it was a big, big difference. So you had to worry about every night, not just your nights. But over the course of those 18 years, I went from just running tickets to marketing to the operations, but really was able to dive in with my creative team and the marketing team, where we recreated logos, we recreated a brand. If you look, we were one of the few teams where, we had our city across our chest, both home and away. And it was all about Brooklyn. And I still, a part of me will always be at that franchise, but I always used to joke around, we were one of few teams that had Brooklyn across the chest. And to make the black and white and a new identity, get involved with Jay-Z and sit in a room the way his mind goes and do a court and just all that stuff of building a building. They say in the industry, you want to win a ring. If you're working for a team, you want to advance your career and you want to open up a building. And, the Nets gave me 2 out of 3. And I always say I only have 1 ring that I wear. And depending if you talk to my wife, if the ring stays on, even some of that time. And I use that joke very badly often. But, there's only 1 winner at the end of every year from a championship. So we didn't get that. But what we built in Brooklyn was pretty special. And we've since handed the baton off to different people in the industry, but obviously being able to do that for a kid from New Jersey and do that in Brooklyn. I remember the team got sold, and I got a call. I was only in Brooklyn once in my entire life. The next morning, I got in my car and I drove there, and I just drove around like we were going there tomorrow. And it took us 12 years to get there.
100%. And I was at the Nets game a few weeks ago against the Kings, and you can still feel it's one of the, in my opinion, one of the stadiums that you go to and you really do feel a culture there. You speak about that black and white, that theme, that you can almost kind of feel the kind of history of the club there. So great to say that you played obviously a huge part there. Good stuff. And Fred, I've got to be honest with you, man. Since I've made the move to New York, and I guess subsequently building out my own network here, your name has come up more times than I think most out of everyone that I've been meeting with and speaking with. One of the kind of go-to marketing and sales execs in the industry. Can you just talk to us, and I guess someone who's listening to this, who's wanting to build their own kind of personal brand, I guess, whether it's something that you've done intentionally, or whether it's something that you've kind of been conscious of throughout your career. How have you actually been able to build not just successful brands for the teams that you've worked for, but also your own personal brand throughout your career as well?
Well, look, it's funny. I have so many people say that. How do you keep in touch with all these people? And how do you just grab coffee or and I just say, look, I'm just old. I've been around. It's a young person industry. I've spent a lot of time, probably the last 5 years, doing more. I see all these, it's funny when you're in this industry, especially the chair you sit in, you have so many people coming at you to help get people they know. And it's usually like your neighbor's cousin's friend who says, can you get me? Now it's literally my friend's kids saying, how did I get in? And so I've really tried to do a lot more with the youth and just give them some guidance, because it's hard. I didn't have anyone to help me, but I wish I did. I wish I had a leg up. But just to give, because now the opportunities are much more between league offices and agencies and what's going on in gaming and esport. But I'm not a big social media guy, but I tell people all the time what goes on with LinkedIn. I just think it's phenomenal when people use it the right way from a business perspective. I have people hit me up all the time. Freddie, can you help me with this? And I literally say to them, it's like a little homework assignment. Go through my LinkedIn, And if there's someone on there you want to just let, I'm not going to tell you everyone,
Right.
but look, whether it's people like yourself, I talked about, Neil Glad as one of the examples. Like I knew him for many, many years. I actually almost went and worked for him once when he was at the league office in the NFL. Always kept a relationship on, always invited him out to a net game. Just always keeping your ties because it's the typical you never know.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that got me a job at the Jets, but you know what? He thought about calling me for it. And I just think it's very, and especially now in today's age, I just have so many people who've worked for me who call me, be like, Freddie, I'm here right now. I don't know if I want to stay. And I just want to help people. And, people who've worked for me over the years and have given me their blood, sweat, and tears and time away from their family, whether they worked for me for 2 years or they worked for me for 15, I just feel, I always say, unfortunately, you've been part of the Mangione tree, and I want you to be proud of it and do it. And it's when you get those random calls from people. I've been named 40 under 40, and I've done this and I've done that. And, look, I've just been very proud about some people who've gone on and done some amazing, amazing things in this industry. And they put your name in a publishing piece, or they thank you, on a podcast, and it goes a long, long way. And there's some really talented people who've gone on to be presidents and CROs and that. And I'm just happy for all of them. But at the same point, it's probably like the interns who were under me who walk in my office and say, I never thought in my life I'd be able to sit in a meeting or walk into a C-suite executive and say, but you made me feel good. And I have many today who move on to jobs and they're like, I still tell people how I was allowed in your direct report meetings because you said I should learn and feel a part of it. And that's all it is. And as I always tell people, we're all doing the same jobs. We're just sitting in different offices when we are in the office. So we're all in it together.
Great stuff, man. Well, look, lots of insight there. I'm sure a lot of people listening in would, certainly take a lot of what you just said there on board. And if there's anyone, in my network who's listening to this and, wants to tap into Fred, his very extensive network in the slightest, or, just wants to pick his brain, anything, I'm sure he wouldn't mind, a conversation. And it sounds like he's the type of guy that's happy to help. So, Fred, thanks a lot for that. Moving on to the final part of the chat today. The hot seat, my personal favorite, quick fire round of Would You Rather. We're going to dive straight into things. So kicking off with football or basketball?
That's a good one. Probably basketball by a smidge, and it's only because my son plays it year round and I'm in a gym every other night, AU, this, that. So probably basketball just because I'm always around it no matter what sport I'm working on.
Okay. Pizza or pasta?
Well, it's tough being Italian, having an Italian wife who, we're old school. It's Sunday pasta every Sunday, no matter what's going on. So, but definitely pizza from my end because it always hits home. Hopefully my wife doesn't watch this.
And last question: Forsyth Barnes or anyone else?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Forsyth Barnes or anyone else?
Oh, of course, you guys. It's been great to get to know you over the years and catching up. And like I said, I give so much respect for what you guys do in the industry yourself. And I have a lot of obviously contacts throughout the industry and people who on the team side who've kind of gotten in your chairs and have gotten involved in recruitment. And it's just a key factor. And you asked before about making connections and knowing that and it's not. I probably know 80, 90% of the recruiters in the country and, only a couple of them have ever placed me, but every time there's a Super Bowl, an All-Star game, anything I went to, I probably get a call from one saying, can we catch up? Because there's probably not a month that goes by where someone doesn't call me. I always joke around. It's more, can I help them, give them a name for someone for a job? But when I get a call from someone like so-and-so called me and they said, I can't thank you enough. Like, again, it's just a way of helping and giving back and helping someone like you who trusts me enough to call me to say, Fred, I believe in you and your network. Is there anyone you would really put up for this job? And, that means a lot to me too, that I've had your industry reach out and trust me enough to do so.
Really appreciate that, Fred. Kind words. And look, thanks for joining the session overall as well.